I'm sure it's also triangle strategy, but I don't know. They're more forgiving with weird names over there.
That is for sure.
But yeah, Tal, I definitely want to go to North Carolina one day. I'm just kind of scared of that I'm not the right color. But
Just come to the cities.
okay, and you'll protect me.
Yes. Stay in the cities.
Okay, let's start the show then. What's up, everyone? I'm Raymond. You're watching RPadTV 3000. We have a very special episode today dedicated to the first season of Peacemaker on HBO Max. Joining me are former IGN editor Tal Blevins and Paul Semel. Now, Paul, one of the complaints I got last time was that I did not give you a good enough intro. So now, now I have to make amends for that.
Wait, that was actually a complaint?
It was a complaint. So Paul Semel.
I didn't know my mother watched the show. That's so nice of her.
What can we say about Paul Semel? Like, if you read any men's magazine in the 90s, 2000s, he probably wrote the video game content. You were a former editor at Incite. Incite, Bikini,
Maxim, FHM, King,
Gene Simmons' Tongue, my personal
tongue, which I know you are still lamenting the fall of. Yeah,
you got some good ones. Lemonade.
Oh, lemon. Yeah, I don't even know if Lemonade ever got out the door.
Oh, really? Well, I got money for it.
Yeah, we did like one. I think we did like the one mock-up issue and paid everybody for it, and then it all fell apart. You know, it was the 90s.
Was that good enough of an intro, boys and girls, for Paul? Paul is an excellent guy, and you should follow him on Twitter.
Oh, there we go.
Paul Semel. And he says all kinds of interesting things. His website, paulsemel.com, covers games, books, lots of interesting stuff. And you should go read it daily. And Tal he was like the editor at IGN for like 30 years or something like that. I think it was around that time. Was it 30 years, Tal?
Something like that. Yeah, it's geez, I'm old. We're all old. Yeah.
But now you own
maybe. Yeah, it's coming up on 30 years. You're right.
And now you are one of the owners of one of the most successful restaurants in the nation, Machete. And I just heard some news that you got some great clout on Yelp. Are we allowed to talk about that? Did I drop the ball?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's public. Yeah, we were named a top 20 restaurant in America on Yelp.
That's amazing.
I don't know if that makes us one of the most successful, just one of the most recognized.
It's an award-winning restaurant with some really fancy cuisine, and you started a restaurant during the pandemic, which not that you knew the pandemic was happening, but just the timing. So
yeah, 3 weeks before. 3 weeks before we opened up, so we're coming up on our 2 years. Yeah, they say there's never.
Yeah. There's never a bad time to start a restaurant, except for when you started a restaurant. So let's get back to the topic at hand, which is Peacemaker. Paul, let's start with you. What were your expectations going into the series?
That it was going to be boring and that I was going to quit about midway through the first episode.
Oh, wow.
Which was based on the fact that I did not like the Suicide Squad movie and that John Cena's character was one of the least interesting parts of that movie.
No,
in fact, I like that Suicide Squad movie less than the other one, which I didn't like either. Yeah.
Whoa.
And so I was actually pleasantly surprised that the TV show was that I was liking the show as much as I ended up liking it.
Wow. How about you,
Yeah,
Tal? What were your expectations going into Peacemaker?
Sorry, what was that?
What were your expectations going into Peacemaker?
Oh man, so I'm the exact opposite of Paul. I thought James Gunn style, just was all over it, came through quite well. I think James Gunn is just hilarious. I don't know if you know that the character Peacemaker was actually based on the comedian from Watchmen. So he's supposed to be unlikable. He's supposed to be just kind of a jerk, which I think is a great sign of the times that we're in too. That it's so reflective of what we've been going through recently. But yeah, I mean, I just found his character hilarious. I thought John Cena played it perfectly. I thought it was great casting, I guess is a good way to put it. Some of my friends, when the Peacemaker show was coming on, were like, "Oh man, that guy, he's not a great actor. I don't like the character." And I was like, okay, first off, John Cena is a perfect actor for that role, in my opinion. And second off, you're not supposed to like that character, right? I mean, Peacemaker is not a very likable person. And he shows a little more humanity, a little more human side in the show itself. But yeah, I mean, after what I saw in the Suicide sessions going into it.
Yeah, I guess my opinion is closer to Tal's than yours, Paul. I hated the first Suicide Squad movie, even though it had slinky, sexy Cara Delevingne in it. I'm just not a big Will Smith fan, and I thought Will Smith was playing himself instead of Deadshot. I enjoyed the second movie a great deal, and I liked Cena's character, but I still wasn't expecting that he would be able to carry a series as well as he did. I thought he was phenomenal. Wasn't a big fan of his in WWE. I respected his work. I drew a lot of money, but I just thought he was kind of boring and vanilla. So when he got into this, really lewd, funny, self-deprecating role and knocked it out of the park, I was shocked. I didn't know he had that in him. So kudos, salute to you, John Cena. I thought that was an amazing performance.
I mean, it's kind of like Dave Bautista too, right? Like,
yes, absolutely.
Yeah, two wrestlers who have really shown that they have like some comedic chops.
Mm-hmm.
Also with James Gunn.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, James Gunn, I love his stuff. I thought he did a great job taking relatively unknown characters in Guardians of the Galaxy and making them super entertaining. And I thought he did the same with Suicide Squad, even though you disagree, Paul. But Paul, what did you think of Cena's performance?
I mean, I like John Cena in both the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker. I thought he was good in that role. I just didn't think, at least in the Suicide Squad movie, like I didn't think he was that interesting of a character in that context. But yeah, you're right. I mean, like I wouldn't have thought that he would be a good actor but I'd never seen him act in anything except maybe like a commercial or two. And he was good in, like, once they got to the show and he was really able to kind of go with it, like it was like, okay, yeah, this is like a good role for him and whatnot. Although he wasn't my favorite character in the TV show. So
see, I thought he could do comedy. He had that movie with he had a small role in an Amy Schumer movie. I forget what it was called, but he played one of her boyfriends. Yep. I thought he was funny. And I thought he was great in Daddy's Home too. But again, small role. I didn't think he could carry a series, and he absolutely did. Let's talk about the supporting cast. Were there any characters that stood out for you guys? Tal, let's go with you first.
Sorry, you broke up there on the question. Can you just repeat that again, Ray?
Yeah, my bad. Let's talk about the supporting cast. Were there any characters that stood out for you?
Sorry, totally breaking up again.
No. Maybe if I type the question. No,
Paul is fine. Paul's coming through fine.
Paul, ask him my question. Then you can
Raymond wants to know what you thought of the supporting cast on the show. Which characters you liked?
I really like Steve Agee as Economos. I thought he reprising his role from Suicide Squad coming through. I thought he was fantastic. Seeing more of Jennifer Holland as Hardcore, I think she did a great job. I mean, honestly, the supporting cast I thought was fantastic overall. A lot of ways. I don't think anybody really bogged the cast down. The guy who played Vigilante, I forget the actor's name, and I know they had somebody in that role first who then just didn't kind of work out, and they had to recast after shooting I think like five episodes with him. But I think the guy who played Vigilante was perfect for that role as well too. Again, not a character you're supposed to like. I thought Eagly was amazing. Cast, it was great.
Eagly will definitely win an Oscar for, or I guess it would be an Emmy for best animal in a dramatic series.
Best CG animal.
Yes. Paul, what supporting characters?
I also love that. Sorry, just one other thing. I just want to toss in there. I also love that every time they showed Judo Master coming in, he was always
the Cheetos. I love the Cheetos.
I thought that was a good little touch to add to the to his character.
I love that quirk. Paul, what did you make of the supporting cast?
I like them a lot. In fact, I like them more than I liked John Cena's character. Like Adebayo, I thought was great. Jennifer Holland was great. I thought they were all really, really good. One thing that did strike me is, I don't know why I never thought of this before, but Robert Patrick is really good actor, and is I think sort of an unsung kind of, I was going to say unsung hero, but that's not the right word. But he's kind of underappreciated, I think, as an actor. Maybe because of the way he started, with the Terminator. But like, I've seen him in a bunch of things, and he's always really, really good. And like, he plays like this character who, you talk about people you're not supposed to like. You're like, this guy is really unlikable and just a huge dick and like, racist piece of shit. And like, he just pulled that off so well. And it's interesting because I think this is going to be one of those shows where a lot of the people show up in other things because of this show. Like, kind of like Game of Thrones and Battlestar Galactica. Like, this is going to be the show that kind of launches like Holland's career and when he plays Adebayo and whatnot. I think you're going to see a lot of that coming up.
I liked Vigilante a lot. One of my favorite things was the actor is actually British. He was in the Harry Potter movies. And he kept his American accent while they were filming the whole time. And John Cena didn't realize he was British until they wrapped, and he was shocked when he heard his real voice. But one of my favorite things about Vigilante as a character is that everyone had character growth. Everyone matured a little, except for Vigilante. He started as an idiot, ended as an idiot, didn't really grow, didn't really learn anything. And I love that they did that with him. One of my friends thought he was too close to Deadpool, and I kind of get it, but I don't know. For me, he was his own thing. How did you guys feel about Vig or V?
I thought he was very funny, but yeah, he was an idiot. And it's funny too, because the last couple of years I've had a decreased tolerance for stupid people because of what's been going on in the world, and I was sort of a little worried when they were like, oh, he's like this really big idiot, and I was like, oh god, I'm gonna end up hating this guy more than I'm supposed to. But like, I actually did find him funny. Like, he was actually like a funny stupid character, which is something I for the last couple of years I haven't been able to laugh at people like that.
Yeah, he's a charming sociopath.
I think it was also, I think he was a good foil to Peacemaker to actually make Peacemaker seem a little more human as well. to show that other juxtaposition. Because I mean, I think if anything, Peacemaker probably had some of the most progression, some of the most self-realization. Still a horrible person, but especially with Robert Patrick coming back in kind of like pseudo ghost form, his reflection on that, reflection on childhood. I think Vigilante, like you said, he has not progressed much at all, and it just kind of makes Peacemaker seem a little bit more. I don't know what the best way to put it is, but a little bit more rational or a little bit more human when you put him, juxtapose him against a character like Vigilante.
And look, we have a comment all the way from England. It's our old pal Bryn Williams, my old coworker at GameSpy. Paul, he was at Incite with you, is that right?
Yes, that's when I met him. He was at Incite, and then I wrote for him when you guys were at GameSpy, and then he left.
Yes, he got deported. No, he didn't really get deported, but he's not here to defend himself, so I can see that.
You know what? On his last day at GameSpy, he finally talked in his British accent, and I didn't even realize that he was British. So it was a surprise. Total surprise.
Now let's get into spoiler territory. There was an unexpected cameo in the last episode of Peacemaker with some people from the Justice League. I was not expecting that. Did that surprise you guys? Let's start with you, Tal.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought it was, it was kind of a throwback to why don't you just call in the Justice League then? Actually talk about the fish fucking again with Aquaman there. But yeah, no, I thought it was great. I don't know if what I didn't really like that they had Superman and Wonder Woman there. I don't really necessarily think they needed that. I think it would have been fine with just the Flash and with Aquaman there. Maybe they're the only two members of the Justice League who were free at that point to come along. But I thought it was a good little nod to that earlier line, and then also that kind of running joke they've had going throughout the entire season.
And I loved how they played it up, and they had Aquaman cursing. I don't think he'll be dropping F-bombs in his own movie. And just the interplay with
yeah, I do agree with you, Tal, that it was weird that they kind of had Wonder Woman and Superman in silhouette, and it's hard not to compare this stuff to what Marvel does with the TV. And I thought that if it was a Marvel show, either Henry Cavill and Gal Gadot would have been there, or Superman and Wonder Woman wouldn't have been there, and they would have made a joke about the fact that I got the B League from the Justice. You know what I mean? They wouldn't have done that kind of they're here, but you can't see their face thing. It is interesting though. I noticed right away Batman and Cyborg weren't there, and apparently James Gunn was interviewed about it, and he said there is a reason why those characters weren't there, but he couldn't say why. So it wasn't the because Ben Affleck doesn't want to be Batman anymore and the Cyborg guys burned that bridge hard,
right? And they haven't recast him yet, is that, if I'm not mistaken?
No.
Do you think Joss? No. You think Joss Whedon called up James and asked him not to put Cyborg in? Do you think Joss Whedon called up James Gunn and asked him not to put Cyborg in?
No. No, I think there was honestly, I think if they wanted to have Cyborg in that scene, they would have done it the way they did with Superman. But for some reason, there's something going on that we don't know, in the Snyderverse or whatever.
See, having Superman and Wonder Woman just as the outlines, it kind of reminded me of that intro they do for all the DC superhero stuff where they go through the major superhero. So I kind of thought it was like that. I also thought at least Gal was too big to be in this series. I don't know if The Witcher is.
No, I mean, I think the reason they got those two is because those two are filming their movies right now, and I'm sure Gal is off doing something else, and Henry Cavill is doing The Witcher. So it may have been, logistically impossible to get them. In fact, James Gunn in that same interview said that what was funny is that I think it's either Aquaman or Flash was the filming of it was actually filmed by a Marvel crew on like apparently like he got him to come over to the Guardians of the Galaxy set and that's where they shot him.
Oh,
and
wow.
so like Marvel ended up paying for that little bit, but there's also something that was in Peacemaker. There's something in Guardians of the Galaxy that DC paid for, weirdly enough.
I think it was the actor who played Smyrn. I believe he's in Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Yes, that's what it was.
Yes.
It was something to do with him. Like he was. They needed to shoot like something of him, and like he was on the Peacemaker set, so they shot him up like using the Peacemaker crew. And so in a weird way, like Marvel and DC have collaborated.
Yeah, because I read that same interview, Paul. I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
that's very nice of him. You know, one of the things James Gunn is known for is his use of music, and this series also knocked it out of the park with a lot of unexpected choices. I was thrilled to see Hanoi Rocks get some spotlight. I mean, not a lot of young people know that band. Maybe they know him from Razzle being in that car accident with Vince Neil, but I'm glad they got to hear some of their music. What were some of the musical surprises? What are some of the tracks that you guys liked in the series?
I think just in general, I think that was another great personality trait of Peacemaker, just to have, you know, the whole soundtrack was basically like the soundtrack of his youth and, you know, going through his head. So it was, you know, very much a hair metal band, 80s, you know, metal. I mean, there's God, I forget the name of something Wig, the theme song, but that's a song that I had never even heard before. And like now the theme song I kind of know by heart, and I even like watch the intro every time when I come into the show, you know, because it's like such a weird, interesting intro that you don't normally like. You know, I would hit that skip intro every time it pops up, but I watch it every single time because I just love how awkward it is. But also that song, you know, it kind of rocks.
Absolutely.
And that song's not from the 80s, by the way.
Is it not?
No, it's from 2010.
Well, there you go. It sounds very like I'd never heard that song before.
Yeah, I looked that up. It's from some band like, and it was recorded like 10 years ago or 12 years ago now.
Right, because some of the bands like Steel Panther is a parody band that's only been around for like since the late 2000s or something like that. But
this is actually, they're not like a parody band though. They're an actual hair metal band, but they started in like 2006 or something like that. And I don't think that any of them are in like other bands. Like I don't think it's like the bass player from Rat and like the singer from White Lion and you know. So yeah.
One of the big surprises that some people had was that they were shocked to learn that John Cena actually played piano during that Home Sweet Home scene. That was actually him playing. I thought that was a nice touch.
Yeah, I was wondering that because, like, you know, it looked like he was playing. Otherwise it was faked very well. I mean, I figured it might have just been CG, but if you've read that he's actually playing, that's pretty. I didn't know John Cena could play the piano.
Yeah, there's actually a few tracks of him on YouTube, like playing at different people's houses.
I'll have to check that out.
Surprisingly talented guy. I don't know if he would cut it in Scro-Magnon, but he's almost at that level.
You know what? We would love to rock with John Cena. That would be absolutely incredible. The band, by the way, I just looked it up. It's a Norwegian band called Wigwam does the theme song. I knew it was Wig something because I looked them up before. But yeah, you're right, Paul. They are relatively new. They're not an 80s band at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just funny that it's kind of for me at least, an unknown band. And then it sounds very 80s, and it just kind of fits in very well though.
Yeah. I actually think that the success of the show is due in large part to that intro, like the song and the dancing, because the video of that like seemed to go viral, and then it was like right after that happened is when everybody seemed to start talking about this show. Like
it's definitely a hell of a hook.
I'm sorry.
It's definitely a hell of a hook to get people in.
Yeah, but I think that was a big part of the reason why this show took off the way it did, is because that video went around and people were like, this is great. If this is this cool, what is the show like? And then they watched the show. And
on the flip side of that, I can say the reason I didn't watch Firefly in its original run on Fox was because of that horrible theme song. I went click.
Yeah.
That wasn't great. I never thought about that.
There was a complaint about that Star Trek Enterprise was that they had gotten like the woman who had written like, Don't Want to Miss a Thing and like all these big like ballady like rock songs and whatever to write the theme song, and everybody was like, this is horrible, like, but
who were some of the other bands? We said Hanoi Rocks, Motley Crue. I think he stole a Poison record from the first Butterflies apartment.
He loved Poison.
Right.
Cinderella,
yeah. Was there Whitesnake in there? I don't know if I'm imagining that.
I don't remember.
There
was a bunch of them.
No one that I'm thinking of.
But what was interesting was like, even with those bands, he didn't really play. They never played like the big song, like they didn't play like Cinderella's big hit. They didn't play like the big White Lion hit, like even Pretty Boy Floyd, which I can't believe I remember that. Like they didn't play like their big song. They played like a deeper cut on the album, which I thought was kind of an interesting like way to go about it, because usually James Gunn is picking like the like a big song in like the Guardians movies, and in this he kind of went more obscure.
Wonder if it was a budget thing, because it's TV, not movies.
You know what? It might have just been too. I mean, you got to think about it, right? These characters are a little bit more obscure than a lot of the other DC characters out there. So maybe he wanted to pick some more obscure tracks to kind of go with that too. I mean, I know there was Faster Pussycat. I think Bang Camaro was in there as well too.
It also wouldn't surprise me if Marvel was like, no, we want like bigger songs that people recognize. That it was almost like the reverse of that. Like it wasn't the money issue. It was like, you're in a movie, go big or go home kind of thing.
Right.
What did you think of James Gunn's work on a series as opposed to the movies that have made him famous? Do you think he works well in this format, or?
I thought it was great. I mean, I was kind of wondering the same thing, considering I'm used to kind of seeing James Gunn for 2 hours. But I absolutely think this worked as an entire season arc progression with the characters. I look forward to see what they're going to do with season 2, because it seems like they did a good job of being able to potentially wrap it up in case they didn't get picked up. Now that they have gotten picked up for season 2, I mean, I appreciate them telling an encapsulated story, but then they did leave like Goth alive too. So we'll kind of see where that goes in season 2. It'd be interesting to see if they can keep up the momentum for season 2, because I mean, you had the big, you had Robert Patrick's character Augie die, which was a big motivation for Peacemaker. You had Murn die, exactly. So you had a lot of like pretty big deaths in there. So we'll have to kind of see what the focus of season 2 is going to be.
I also think that the line between TV production and movie production has really like narrowed over the last couple of years. I mean, like if you watch like any of the Star Wars shows, like they look just as good as like any of the movies. Like they've got like, there really isn't that much of a difference anymore. Like there was like, 20 years ago where like TV looked like crap compared to like movies look great and big and whatnot, and TV was all small. Like you can do big things on TV now, and I think that really worked to his advantage, because he, I don't feel like he was hampered as much by the budget as like he would have been, say, 10 years ago.
Yeah. And if Zack Snyder or Peter Jackson have taught us anything, you can create an entire television series in one movie anyway. So you can have a 5-hour movie. It's fine.
Yeah.
So you're right. I agree with you, Paul. I think the formats are kind of blending now. And like you said, like I thought things like the effects, the CG, everything was really good. And for a TV show, even like 5-10 years ago, you would definitely be able to see a big difference between those. A movie production and a television production.
Yeah. Well, and the cow is a great example of that. Like that was a really great special effect that 10, 20 years ago would have been like a very obvious big rubber puppet. And it didn't look like that at all.
But I also think there are different levels of TV. Like Disney can afford, the expensive CG. Warner's did a good job with this one. But if you look at TV now, some of the stuff on the CW superhero shows, it still doesn't look great.
No.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's a major studio behind this. So
yeah. All I want for season 2 is more Judo Master and more Cheetos. Like I just love that. It's so random and weird and fun. And I like that actor. I think he was on Nick Kroll's show. Does some funny bits on that show. Hope to see more of him. I had an interesting debate with a friend about Peacemaker versus Book of Boba Fett. I know it's apples and oranges, but both really good series in my opinion. Book of Boba Fett, people had higher expectations for, and it got criticized more. Whereas Peacemaker, not a lot of people were sure what to expect, so they were pleasantly surprised with how good it is, and it got less criticism. Do you agree with that? How would you compare the series in terms of quality? Paul, we talked about Boba Fett last week. This one,
I think you're right. The expectations for Boba Fett coming off The Mandalorian were much higher, and that's why people were disappointed, even though they weren't really disappointed. And I think with Peacemaker, there weren't as many expectations, and it's I would almost say a better comparison would be like Peacemaker versus one of the Marvel shows, where again, you have these big expectations, and if it didn't live up to them, people would have been much more disappointed. But comparing the two, it's hard for me to do that because I really like Star Wars and I really like Boba Fett. And to be honest, going into this, I didn't really, I know I kind of knew who Peacemaker was because he'd been in some comic I had read, but I didn't care about him. I didn't remember him really. He was kind of this fourth-rate superhero in the DC universe.
Yeah,
so I didn't have any vested interest in him whatsoever. I don't own a Peacemaker T-shirt and a Peacemaker action figure.
Just the helmets.
Yes. Yes. And only 3 of them. So
activate human torpedo.
No, I have iced coffee, bean burrito, and chocolate mousse.
Oh man, you got great helmets. These all sound awesome, Paul.
Yeah.
I kind of echo what Paul says in that I think it's kind of what you're seeing in pop culture in general, right? I think so many franchises now explore the same story or the same settings. And maybe it's because, Boba Fett was on Tatooine. Do we need another story on Tatooine? Do we need a story around Boba Fett? We just had the Mandalorian. Although Boba Fett's not a Mandalorian, he has the armor. He was a bounty hunter. There were lots of similarities there. Do we need to go back to Jabba's palace? It was all places we've been before or seen before. Whereas with Peacemaker, it was, a lot of new stuff. Again, like you're saying, it's kind of maybe not even the B team, maybe the C or D team of heroes and villains that we're looking at here for Peacemaker, but it's stories that we haven't explored before. And man, what? Luke Skywalker's story has been told. Anakin Skywalker's story has been told. Boba Fett's story, for the most part, has been told. And I thought the book of Boba Fett the Boba Fett stuff was a little boring, in my opinion.
Totally
he's
agree.
supposed to be this badass, and then all he did was get his ass handed to him all the time. Anyway, long story short, I think it is just kind of what we're seeing in pop culture in general, that we really need people bringing in new stories. I mean, we see the same thing with franchises in video games, right? Where you really crave something new and interesting after you're playing the 7th iteration of the same series.
Fair enough. And yeah, totally agree with you on the boringness of Boba Fett. But I don't want to dwell on that too much. We had an episode on that last week. Let's stay positive on the Peacemaker tip. What do you guys want from season 2? Like I already said, I want Judo Master and Cheetos. What do you guys want from season 2?
I mean, I can start. I kind of want to see how, the relationship between Peacemaker and Vigilante was one thing, but now the relationship between Peacemaker and Abadayo, is that going to expand in season 2? Because there's something really where you could see a progression in Peacemaker potentially with Abadayo, because with Vigilante, you're never going to see, again, a little bit of progression, but you're not going to see that much of a progression, right? But can it, where's that going to go? Because I love, at the end where he says, don't let Vigilante know, but after Eagle, you're my BFF, right? So exploring that relationship, and just kind of seeing now how Harcourt, as I assume the leader of the team, although we'll kind of have to see, after Amanda Waller, if she's going to how are they going to go underground, especially since now her daughter has outed her, and the whole, we're going to have to see, right? There's a lot of questions got brought up.
That's kind of a big deal that she exposed the Suicide Squad. Like how does that work in that universe? I mean, that should be a tremendous scandal, but will it get played out that way? I don't know.
Right.
Paul, what do you think?
I don't know. I mean, because the thing, one of the flaws of the DC universe is they don't have a Kevin Feige. They don't have a person who's kind of in charge of everything, as far as we know, who's working the machinations behind the scenes, and who was sitting there going because he has a master plan.
Right. It was supposed to be Jeff Johns was supposed to be the guy. And I'm biased because one time I was drunk and I called him a poor man's Mark Waid, but I don't think he did a very good job of unifying the DC universe.
No, I mean, one of the things that came up in Wonder Woman 1984, Patty Jenkins, the director, basically was yeah, we're going to ignore this thing that they did with Wonder Woman in the Justice League movie. There's, which you never would do in the, Kevin Feige would never let happen in the Marvel movie unless there was some kind of reason for it and it was explained and it wasn't actually a contradiction. Right. And so I don't know where I mean, you would think the brass at DC wouldn't have let him do that if they didn't have a plan. Yeah. But then again, it's Amanda Waller. She can pull off a lot of stuff that, this is probably not going to stop her. Yeah, maybe she'll get hauled up before a Senate subcommittee and, or something. But I think you will see another Suicide Squad movie if the last one did well. I don't know if it did.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head, but at least I remember a lot of people talking about it when it did.
Yeah, out. I mean, I know James Gunn has said that there's another TV series in the works with some other character from the Suicide Squad movie, and that's gonna is what he's doing after Guardians 3.
Well, I'll say too. Look, I liked how the Peacemaker TV show tied into a lot of the Suicide Squad story as well too. I think James Gunn does kind of have it plotted out what he wants to do, at least with those characters.
Yes.
Right? So I think we'll see some good flow through with that. I completely agree with you that DC has seemed very disjointed compared to Marvel. I mean, we saw the same thing in the new Disney Star Wars movies, where it just all three just seemed disjointed and they didn't really have a plan going into it. They were just kind of whatever, it's Star Wars, it'll be great.
Right.
But it does very much feel like you're saying, Kevin Feige and the Marvel guys, they have a really clear vision of what they're doing. Now, I will say this: everything that Dave Filoni touches in the Star Wars universe has a really clear line, through it. So, hopefully he can be that for the Star Wars universe going forward. But yeah, DC is like I said, a whole different beast. Even though I think James Gunn can kind of contain it. I mean, heck, I wouldn't mind handing it over to James Gunn and seeing what he can do.
I was just thinking that would be like an interesting way to go about it. Like, what would he do with Batman and Superman? And
yeah.
So, Paul, taking a step back, both Suicide Squad movies did well. I remember being very disappointed that the first one did as well as it did, more than 700 million internationally, and it just made me upset with people, like for going to see this crap. But yeah, both movies did phenomenally well. So, one of the things James Gunn is known for is taking characters from comics that, like you said, Paul, that are maybe the C or D tier, and putting a new twist on them. Vigilante is a character that I know from the comics, and the version in Peacemaker is so different. I mean, this guy in the comics, he's this, really serious, mentally disturbed vigilante who ends up committing suicide. Whereas in Peacemaker, he's this idiot busboy. But I appreciate. I was very entertained by Gunn's take on Peacemaker in Vigilante, but there's some purists that don't like what he does with characters like that and Judo Master, and makes them funny and goofy.
Right. Wow.
I liked it. How did you guys feel about make James Gunn making these obscure characters entertaining? Tal, take this one, please.
Look, I think with obscure characters, you kind of have to do that. It's I get it. The purists are mad about certain things, but man, talk about. I mean, again, it kind of reminds me with the stories of Alan Moore doing Watchmen, where he wanted to kill off a whole cast of DC characters, known DC characters, and DC was like, well, wait a second, let's give that some more thought. So we just kind of had to make up some other characters, based on those tropes. But these were fairly unknown characters, like in the grand scheme of things. For in the comic book world. I mean, even just some big comic book readers, they were kind of unknown characters. So I think adding this fun twist on it, just like with Guardians of the Galaxy, if it were just kind of played straight, in my opinion, it wouldn't resonate as much because the characters don't mean anything to that many people, I should say. Again, the purists, I get it. I get that they could be upset about it, but I think you almost have to take a new look or a new twist or provide some other sort of entertainment hook on it if you want this to be a bigger scale.
Paul, did you mind James Gunn's take on these characters?
No, because like I said, I had no vested interest in them. Right. It wasn't like when Sam Raimi was like, okay, so Spider-Man, we're going to give him naturally forming web shooters, but we're also, because we don't want him to be that smart, because being smart's alienating. I always thought that was really stupid. But with these guys, I don't care. I don't remember them. I vaguely remember seeing them, but I don't really remember them. I don't have any kind of interest. You can do whatever oh yeah, this guy's a complete idiot now, and whatever. It's all right, whatever works for the show. But the other thing to remember is this is the TV version of this character. There's the comic book version of the character, and unless you say these things are all canon, it doesn't matter. So
right.
It's all multiverse now, Paul. All multiverse.
There was a version of Vigilante in an Arrow on the CW, and he was played straight up psychopath.
A little more dark.
Yeah.
Let me I want to go back just to our previous conversation for a comparison here. Just like Paul was saying, I had no invested interest in these characters. I love what James Gunn did overall with the universe, the atmosphere, the feeling of it, the comedy. I know Star Wars. Star Wars is something I grew up with as a kid until, in my 40s now. And I know Star Wars. So that's why I think when Book of Boba Fett, especially with the mayor's emissary, the diplomat, I just did not think his tone fit whatsoever. I didn't think the Moss Vespa kids fit whatsoever on their Vespas, right? Because they're supposed to be kind of poor desert rat children, and they have all these mods, and So that to me, that's where I was like, that it just became a little cringy for me that this isn't Star Wars, right? Because I already had a preconceived notion of what Star Wars was, and what the tone should be, and and then so like Paul said, like going into this, I had none of that, so it was just a fun ride.
Absolutely. So, do you want to see more surprises, or do you want to see more of the same? Going forward, however long Peacemaker lasts. Like, I wouldn't mind if
yeah, I mean, I'd love to see some new characters introduced. Obviously, some, he keeps. I think he made a reference. I know I've seen some of like the shorts too, but I think he made a couple of references to Kite Man, maybe in the classroom where he fought Kite Man. But
yes.
I thought the Suicide Squad animated series was fantastic. I'm not sure if either of you guys watched that. Watch it. Really funny. And Kite Man was a big part of that too. So I could see Kite Man showing up. I mean, how absurd! Just a guy who has a bunch of different kites that he can do different things with.
Well, I like Kite Man from the Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy series.
Yeah, sorry, that's what I'm talking about. Sorry, it just had some of the like King Shark. Yeah, the Harley Quinn series.
I thought there was a Suicide Squad animated series that I had somehow missed.
Yeah.
No. That's exactly what I meant. It just had some of the Suicide Squad folks in there too.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, King Shark was great. I loved King Shark and Harley Quinn.
Oh, Ron Funches as King Shark was fantastic.
Oh yeah, he's so good in that role.
Great character.
What I would like to see is it would be fun if they brought one of the Justice League in, and that person was like super serious and trying to do the job well, and just getting frustrated by it, by dealing with Peacemaker and Vigilante, the thing is, like, it wouldn't even matter who. Like, it could be Wonder Woman, it could be Batman, it could even be
Commissioner Gordon. It could be somebody like that.
Yeah, but I don't. Yeah, that I think would be kind of interesting. Like seeing them interact even more with those characters.
Yeah.
Not really Flash, because Flash is a little goofy as is.
Yeah.
Like, I would want it to be someone like Batman would be great because he's always so serious.
Yeah. I will say, I mean, that's kind of the role that Myrn played in this, though, right? Partially is that, he was like, why did you change the fingerprints to his dad? Like, what are you guys doing? Like, you're all idiots. We would definitely get frustrated with the whole crew.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys remember the Justice League International comics where it was kind of goofy and madcap.
Yeah.
But they did something like that where Aquaman was with them for a few issues. And in the last issue of his run, he's like, God, now I know what Hawkman was talking about. You guys are idiots.
What if they just have the Wonder Twins show up?
Oh. They hinted at that in Arrow. They played the Justice League music, the Super Friends music, and they had the monkey making monkey sound in the background. But Leak, who always had a bucket whenever the dude turned into water. Otherwise, he'd just splash around on the floor.
And we also know what monkeys do with buckets. So
yeah,
I wouldn't want to be riding around in that bucket.
I never thought about that until you mentioned that. That's totally gross. He's like, he becomes a pile of like mud shit.
Wow.
So we have a comment from Russ Loy. I hope season 2 has a new team around Peacemaker and Vigilante. Maybe keep Economos since he was cool. Well, Jennifer Holland is sticking around because she's dating James Gunn, so I think her spot is safe.
Yeah.
Yes, but here's the thing I will say about that. I think this was, in a way, a star-making turn for her, and I think that she's going to go on and do great things even without James Gunn.
Yep.
Like, I think the stigma of being the director's girlfriend has been erased by her performance in this.
Really?
Which doesn't always happen. Like, just ask Rob Zombie's girlfriend. Like, she's still Rob Zombie's girlfriend, even though she's been in every one of his movies.
I wasn't as impressed as you. I thought she was fine, but she didn't really stand out for me. Tal, what did you make of Jennifer Holland's performance?
I thought it was great. I thought she played the role great. I thought it was more of a smaller role in Suicide Squad, and to see her come back and kind of be one of the lead characters in the season. Yeah, no, I thought it was great, and I agree with Paul. I could see her going on to other things for sure.
Wow, I'm gonna have to rewatch the series because I definitely missed something there.
It definitely took like a little while.
Okay.
Like at first she was very one note, but over time she kind of, they added more layers to her, and that's when it got interesting.
And maybe it's too because I haven't seen her in a whole lot of things either.
Yeah.
So again, it's kind of that unexpected quantity,
right,
and quality.
Well, the same with the actress who played Adebayo. Like I had never seen her in anything.
Orange is the New Black.
Oh, was she? Okay, I never saw that. She's going to be in The Color Purple.
Right.
We're doing some Color Purple thing, and she's going to be in that. So
yeah, she was great in Orange is the New Black too.
I didn't know is it a remake of The Color Purple? I didn't know that was happening.
I don't know, but I know that Oprah is involved somehow because the video that I saw was Oprah calling that woman to tell her she got the role. And the woman was freaking out because, like, holy crap, it's Oprah. Holy crap, I got the role. Like, yeah.
Danielle Brooks, I think, is that
her name? Yeah, she was really. Yeah, she was one of the highlights for me of this show.
What would freak you out more? Oprah calling you or Oprah telling you got a big role in a movie?
I could really see Viola Davis going somewhere after this too.
Yeah.
She has a future, that woman.
Breakout role.
Okay, let's wrap it up on this because I know that you guys got to take off soon. Does Aquaman, in your opinion, fuck fish? Paul?
I think he makes love to them.
Okay.
And if you don't understand the difference, go ask your parents.
Tal?
Fish? No. Dolphins? Maybe.
They are mammals. That is
they are mammals.
Well, awesome.
Sharks only if he likes it rough. So
ooh. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. If you want to go to the finest restaurant in Greensboro, check out Machete. Check out the menu on machetegso.com. The restaurant has really inventive food, really creative drinks, and I personally can't wait to go there. If you want nonstop entertainment on a daily basis, follow Paul's Twitter account. It's really that good. And please follow me. Thank you for watching. For the people that joined us live, for people watching the replay. And please follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and all that good stuff. Thanks so much for watching RPadTV 3000 and hope to see you guys soon. Take care.
Take it easy. Good seeing you.